Well, we'll take the slide on sewers out of this, okay? Thank you for coming. Is that good enough? We're gonna, every year, I think, as you read, we do a budget forum, the town board and I, to begin the budget process as opposed to ending the budget process. And so tonight we're gonna talk just a little bit about some of the budget fundamentals. It's so dark in here I can't see my notes, but that's okay. And kind of go through some of that. If you have any questions or any, that's okay, no, you're fine. Feel free to ask them at any time. I was told I needed a pointer, I couldn't find a pointer, so I'm getting more like my grandfather every day. I have a laser level to use as a pointer. So that's how cost effective we are here, guys. Now it's not working, but we'll start with the basics of the budget and what comprises the budget. It's actually a variety of funds. So really the main funds, when we talk about the budget, we usually refer to the three main funds. Because we're a town that has a village inside of us, we have to break out some of those village services in the budget. So we have what we call the A fund, which is the entire town, including the village. We have the B fund, which is everything outside the village. So for example, the village has their own police department, we have our own police department. The village has their own planning and building department. So all that gets charged to just the folks outside the village. And then we have the highway fund, which we call the 04 or the D fund. The A fund is a $4 million fund. The B fund is 4.9, and the highway is $3.8 million. The rest of the budget, primarily, total budget of $17.2 million, is made up of the sewer fund, the water fund, and special districts. So that kind of gives you a sense of how the funds are made up. Where we get our revenues, and this is a little hard on the screen to see, I understand that, the majority of our revenues come from property and sales tax. In fact, 55% comes from property, 25% or so, 22% from sales tax. That comprises really 85% of our revenues, comes from those two sources. And then the minor ones after that are mortgage tax, state aid, all this stuff. And then the other biggie, the 10%, is things like grants, the 1.2 million grants, building fees, things like that. So that's where the money comes from. What should be striking to any resident is the majority of the budget is property taxes here in Schenectady County. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. Where your dollars go by department, it's easy to see. Highway comprises 36% of your tax dollar, 3.7 million or 3.8 million, the other slide said, goes to highway, 4 million to the police, which is 39% of the tax revenue that comes in. 900,000 is administration, which is basically the overhead of running the town. And then we have dispatch, parks, seniors, and debt service, as you can see, as the other major components. Major expenses by categories, however, and this we've talked about a long time now, 36% of your tax dollar goes to wages, which makes up $4.8 million. Another 2.1 goes to health, and then the almost $1 million fluctuates around their state retirement. So all told, basically about 60% or so of, is it 60%? Yeah, 60% or so goes to wages and salaries and benefits. Debt services at almost $500,000 or so, and then the rest of the town at $4.1 million is run on that revenue. So as the woman asked, and I wish she had stayed, when you think about your tax bill, your $7,000 tax bill, let's say, as she indicated, 66.5% of that, so 66.5 cents of your dollar goes to your school district. 23 cents goes to the county. We run the town on 8.2 cents of every dollar, and then highway takes 2.3 cents of every dollar. So when people talk about what services they get for their tax dollars, they really have to figure, well, first of all, most of it is school, obviously, but what is the county providing for 23 cents on your dollar, almost a quarter of your tax bill? That's something I think needs to be looked at as people look at their overall tax bill. So the town board has been working under what we call fundamentals, and we have 4 fundamentals of building a budget. They are cutting operational costs. Over 7 years, we'll get into that. We've cut operational costs. The second is protecting the fund balance. The fund balance is like a savings account, and using your fund balance, we'll get into this slide, to pay for operational costs is like using your savings account to pay for your mortgage. At some point, you're going to run into trouble. This town many years ago ran into trouble with that, and they had a 49% tax increase, if you remember that at all. It's because the fund balance got out of whack. It was used too much for the operations of the town. Cutting the debt load was something we said 7 years ago we wanted to do. We'll show a slide on that. And then expanding the tax base. That's the economic development that we've been working on over the course of the past 7 years and what that's done for your budget. So reducing operational costs, this is an interesting slide actually, because really when you look at the fact that our employee count has dropped 25% over the past, since 2008, over the last 8 years, yet our wages have only decreased by 8.4%. And that's because you've seen in that time contractual wage increases, longevity, overtime, things like that. But what really scares me when I look at this is benefits have actually increased, even in the face of losing almost a quarter of your employees. That's a significant challenge for a town or any organization to watch that red line. I know it's difficult to read, but to watch that red line creep up like that. I do want to note why the employee count is so low, because in 2014 we moved our dispatchers to the county. So they're no longer our employees. We no longer have their health insurance costs in that line now. And that's what's scary. So when we look at where can we control costs, most of where we control it, we have controlled it. But where we need to control it is in that red line. That said, our employees are the leanest, most efficient, I would say hardest working employees in the capital region. And it isn't just us, the town board, saying that. We have a study here that shows, although it was reported as Glenville having the highest average salary in the capital district, it's very easy because we have the fewest employees. So when you divide payroll by the amount of employees, we actually have, as a cost per capita for employees, $86 per capita. When you look at our sister towns, Niskayuna, $245 per capita. Wilton, $143, $150, $127. We are by far the leanest town when it comes to workers on payroll. The same is true in the police department. So you look at other communities that have similar, Niskayuna would be probably the closest. Our cost per capita for each police officer is $77, where in Niskayuna it's $109. So we're running a very, very lean operation. The residents should understand that. We got there over 7 years. Can we maintain it? That's an open question. Can we reduce it? Absolutely not. So how do we control, if you go back to the other slide of how we controlled that blue line, how we did that is no longer really an option for us. And what happens to that red line because we can't reduce those operational costs any further. Moving to the fund balance, this is a slide that I'm particularly proud of because when we came in, we actually inherited from 2009 $1.4 million of fund balance being used into operations. This board decided that that wasn't sustainable, so we reduced that every year, ever so slightly. The 2017 budget is looking at maybe allocating $465,000. So that's a significant drop, 65%. What that allows us to do is to move things into capital reserves so that instead of borrowing money, and this will tie into the debt piece later, or instead of not doing things, and we can talk about the amount of paving we're starting to do again, it's allowing us to make investments with cash. And that puts the town in a much better position as far as the operational costs go when we talk about debt. But dropping this from 1.4 almost to 465, Wasn't an easy decision because it required certain levy adjustments over the last 7 years that perhaps otherwise we wouldn't have made. We could have just stayed dependent on that and then one day had a catastrophe in our budget. Cutting the debt load. This ties in now. We've cut our debt because we're using more cash and we're buying things out of reserves. So we went from 23 million in 2009 to now 14 million in our 2017 budget. That's a 40% reduction in debt load. That frees up a lot of operational opportunity for us to allocate money from servicing debt to other areas. And so we're going to continue that philosophy of trying to reduce that further. When we talk about expanding the tax base, and again, I apologize for how bad these slides are showing up on the screen necessarily, but we talked about coming in 7 years ago about the fact that the Glenville residents feels the pain of a property tax burden more so than Niskayuna and Rotterdam because they have a much broader commercial base that it's spread over. So the town board made a decision at that point to really make economic development a priority so that we can begin to spread the tax base out over a commercial base, not just the residents. This shows the investment of $163 million in our town over 7 years. These are projects that came through. We had a stellar year in 2013, as you see. That was when CTVI came in and Old Dominion and perhaps Judson Meadow. So we had a really good year there. We've come down a little bit. We're creeping up again. We're continuing. I think we got some things in the pipeline. I'll show you what that does to our levy, but that's a really, I think, good slide with the investments that's happening in the town. So this just illustrates that over the past 7 years, 6 years, we've added $46 million in new assessed value to the town. And that's a growth of 2.3%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually significant when you're starting to talk about value in the billions. We went from 1.9 billion to over $2 billion in taxable value. So I know a lot of people look at that and say, wow, $46 million, you must be flush with cash. And so we'll just go through a little breakdown of how that actually gets distributed. Over that 6-year period, the town receives $167,000 in new levy base. The county is $361,000 of that. And the school district, almost $1 million of the growth. So the town does not see the lion's share of what people see happening around the town. We do get some growth out of it, don't get me wrong, but the vast majority goes to the county and the school district. When you talk about sales tax, you saw on the slide it's our second biggest revenue line, sales tax. $1 million is generated typically in new sales tax from a Target store. So we decided to use Target for obvious reasons. The $1 million generates 75% almost goes to Schenectady County. They take $745,000 of that generation. The city of Schenectady gets another 130, so they get their 13%. Metroplex, which is a county entity, gets another 87,500, so they get their almost 9%. And Glenville barely even registers at $8,000. That's 0.8%. So when you look at how a municipality runs, we showed you the revenue lines: property tax, sales tax, and then a bunch of little tiny lines. When your sales tax is so small, so tiny, there's only one place to go, and that's the property tax levy. So what's happening is the county has shifted the burden onto the town taxpayers. This isn't a Glenville problem. This is a town problem in Schenectady. It's Niskayuna, it's Rotterdam, it's Glenville. Currently, Glenville's the only one who seems to be concerned with it, but the sales tax share in Schenectady County is wholly unfair. And you can see, looking to our neighbors just over the border here, Saratoga shares their sales tax with their municipalities 50-50. So a town like Clifton Park, which has 34,000 people, gets $12 million a year in sales tax revenue. Glenville with 30,000, although we'll say 22,000 because Scotia gets their own, only gets 2.7. This slide illustrates the levy problem. We've shown you that we've cut the costs. We're as lean as we can possibly be in this town. We're showing you where our revenues come from, levy, sales tax. And we're showing you how unfair the local taxpayers are being treated with how the sales tax is distributed. That's the problem. I think that's going to be a big issue coming forward with the board as we try to renegotiate the sales tax agreement between the county and the city. The towns are not party to the agreement, so we don't have a say in it. But we're going to try to make a lot of noise about it because it has to get fixed. So Schenectady takes 75% of the sales tax share, yet they're still putting a lot of the burden on the Glenville taxpayer. The red line is the growth of the county tax levy from 2012 to 2017. Just over 5 years, they've gone from 13.6 million to 16.2. Look at the uptick, where the town has stayed fairly flat. Now again, we only have 10 cents on the dollar, so our flat line is good, but where you're feeling your pain is in the county, the red line. That's where the pain's coming from, by and large, because it's a much bigger number going up at a much bigger rate. So in real dollars, what does that mean? Well, my little trusty level laser's not working, the battery must have died, but you can see the town of Glenville's increase from 2012 to 2017 is that little blue line to the left, the bar. Our average is the orange, $132,000 a year over the 5 years. But compare that to the county's $2.6 million increase over 5 years, just on the residents of the town of Glenville. And what that turns out to be on an average yearly is $520,000 every year that levy's going up. So what does that mean in percentage? Schenectady County has increased their levy burden on you, the taxpayer, by almost 20% in 5 years. Where for us, it was about 8.4 over the 5 years. So what does this mean to a homeowner? If you live in the village, I don't know if there's any village residents here tonight, and your average house is assessed at about $116,000 roughly. The Scotia tax bill, and again, that slide doesn't show well on our, we're so lean here. This machine is 15 years old, this machine's 12 years old, and I think this came out of someone's attic that they used to show home movies on. We need to upgrade our AV system here. Just to read that number for you. Bear with me. 139.90. So Scotia has increased over the past 5 years $139.90 on the resident in the village. The town, on the village residents, because remember, they're town residents, increased $28.59 over that 75 period. And the county increased it by $136 over the 5-year period. So that's a significant amount of growth in the village, on the village and the county burden. And what that has done, as you can see, total tax burden, if you're in the village and you have a house at $116,000, you're paying $1,400 to the village, $955 to the county, and just $128 a year to the town. That's for a village house. If you live in the town, your average house is about $171,000, that's the average. And as you can see, the town of Glenville is the blue line. Our 5-year trend has been fairly flat from 792 to 832 in levy burden, where the county has a much steeper upward climb from 1.2 to 1,200 to 1,400 roughly. So what that means is the town over 5 years has an average of $7.92 per year in levy real dollar increase, where the county burden is $40.17. So we show you these slides to try to just put into perspective where we are as a town with what we're delivering, the services. If the question was asked tonight, what we're delivering for what we're assessing. And as you can see that we're taking the smallest piece of the revenue pie, and we're, I think, the leanest government, delivering probably the most services. So the highlights of the 2017 budget, and we can have some questions if anyone wants once we get to this. Basically, we're going to continue the board's philosophy. Those principles we talked about, essentially, we're going to lower the debt burden. This budget will lower debt by another $1.2 billion this year, 2017. It will cut the dependency even further by another $85,000. So we're continuing those philosophies of saving, protecting our savings account, lowering debt. We'll continue to find ways to reduce operational costs. How that happens going forward, I don't know, but that's an initiative of ours. Securing new revenue, we have more economic development projects coming in, which hopefully will increase our levy again. The impact this year, if we stay under the cap, which is 1.25%, and we will essentially be for a village homeowner an extra $2 a year, total $2 a year, and for a town homeowner, $3.42 per year. We do have some challenges ahead. We have a variety of them. Looking at this budget, we understand that our PBA contract expires in December of 2016, a couple months. Why that's a challenge is because whenever there's a negotiation going on, there's uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, that's not good for budget planning because we just don't know some of the impacts of what comes out of negotiations. We're hopeful. I think we have a good relationship with the PBA, and I think we're going to have a shot at a fair and affordable contract, but there is some uncertainty in the budget because of that. Retirement payouts continue to stress the budget. So we have an older workforce. We went through a lot of retirements recently. We have a few more to go through, but every retirement comes with a payout. You got to cash out the bank, the time banks. And so roughly speaking, every retirement equals about a $20,000 to $30,000 cash payment out the door. We have to manage that against the budget. And that's been difficult. It's been stressing the budget. Once we get through the retirements and we have a younger workforce, we don't see retirements coming as much as they have in the past years, in recent years coming up. Tax cap constraints, every year we wrestle with what the real tax cap is. It's never 2% anymore. It's CPI or 2%, whatever's less this year. It was actually 0.68. And we got to 1.2 because of a complex formula, but it has to do with your tax-based growth. And because we had tax-based growth, we were able to get to 1.2 and still be under the tax cap. That equates to about, roughly speaking, rough rounding. I know Jason hates when I round numbers, but the rough round is about $100,000 in new spending. So when you look at a $17.2 million and you say you could spend an extra $100,000, it doesn't get you very far when you talk about health insurance going up the way that it is, when you talk about raises in the contracts, longevity, just basic cost of business. It doesn't really go far. And that brings us to health insurance costs continue to rise. This year we get a break. It's probably somewhere between 6 and 8%. Probably the first year in a long time it hasn't been really double digits. And so it's a little bit lower this year, but it's still much higher than what the tax cap would allow for. Growth is expensive. As we grow, we have to offer more services. As we add neighborhoods, we have to plow more roads, sewers, water. As we put on commercial properties where our police officers have more calls to go to. We see that with Walmart and a few others. So as we grow, we're going to have more expenses. Essentially, and so that's a concern in the budget going forward. And the revenue share is fundamentally unfair. That's a huge challenge. Our sales tax, we're being shorted on our fair share of the sales tax, and now we have this thing with this casino going across the river, and the impact money going to the county and the city, but no impact money going to the town of Glenville, although we know the traffic will certainly be going through the town of Glenville. We know probably some of the element of what our police officers may have to deal with in coming through the town of Glenville. So we're going to have costs associated with that, but we don't have any of the impact money like our other communities do, because we're not considered a host community. When the state legislature wrote the law, they only indicated that the host community should get the impact money. They never really thought about the fact that someone might build it on the artificial border. Nothing's really different about Glenville and the city of Schenectady with where they put it. We would also have an impact. So they should have really thought about a radius impact as opposed to impact just to the host. And just to add insult to injury, other counties are getting impact money. They have nothing to do with this. Albany's getting a one-time shot. I think Schoharie and Saratoga, I think all the other counties are getting money. But us, who are directly affected, are getting nothing for the town of Glenville. So that's my short story. I don't know if anyone has any questions or concerns or thoughts or ideas. But not, yes, ma'am.
If you say we're not going to, we will actually get money from this casino because we'll attract people over the border to come and eat in our restaurants and shop and stay in our hotel that's right over the bridge, right?
Well, so, I would disagree with that.
Oh.
I would. We've done a lot of research on this. We've talked to developers. I even, and it sounds like it was fun, but it wasn't, even went to Atlantic City for a weekend on my own dime, just to try this experience. It was a disaster. But exactly what developers have been telling us and why Freeman's Bridge Road hasn't taken off yet is these casinos do not help the surrounding area. People don't go to casinos generally and then leave them and go out on the town and then come back to them. They're destination points from the point of view that people go there. And I experienced this myself. I sat down and played blackjack. And as soon as my chips hit the table, a very nice person came over and gave me whatever I wanted for free. So I ordered the vodka tonic, right? Enjoyed it. Within 10 minutes, I lost all my chips and she never came back again. But the point is, as long as you're gambling, you're getting free drinks. And you gamble enough, you're getting free dinner.
Yeah.
Gamble even more, you got a free room.
You get a free weekend in their hotel.
That's right. So the person building the hotel here on our side of the river has told us their business plan has absolutely no business from a casino in the business plan. They don't anticipate that.
I didn't realize that.
So
That's too bad.
we unfortunately won't. I don't believe. But we're going to deal with traffic and we're going to deal with some of the element with our police department. Anything else? Questions, comments?
On the sales tax and how it's unfair, the distribution. Now that unfairness does that apply to all the towns in Schenectady County?
Yes, it does.
And then do all the towns supervisors have similar feelings as you? And can't the group get together and rise up against the county?
I agree.
Sadly, they don't. They don't seem to have the same concerns. There's probably reasons for that, and if you look deeply enough, you can find them probably. You can make some assumptions.
Well,
let me just finish. And again, I would just say, look at the county payroll. Some of the supervisors are on the county payroll in this town. So why would you rise up against your boss? Jim, I'm sorry, Jim just had a...
Well, I've been doing some preliminary research on this sales tax issue because it's a big issue for me. And one thing that is not in the presentation, I think the presentation was great, but I've been, writing this section of the comprehensive plan that I mentioned about government. And what I learned today, Jason provided me with, it's bad enough that this existing sales tax agreement is for 8 years of a flat number to the towns in the county. No increase at all. from 2012 to 2020. That agreement reflects the two prior agreements that actually date back to 2004. So the towns in this county have been receiving the same exact amount of sales tax revenue for 16 years.
And look at the growth. Look
And
at
I
the
would
growth.
attribute, you want to know what the problem lies? I am not a big fan at all of another added layer of government in the form of this county legislature. Saratoga County is a county board of supervisors. The supervisors of the towns run the county government. In our county, we have a whole other elected board that's further insulated from you, the people, and this is the kind of thing we get from it. So what I'm saying to you, and I'm going to be a real loud person next year when I run for re-election,
Too late.
the people of this county have got to start holding our legislators accountable for this type of arrangement. Because we, the towns, are bearing the direct costs of this development that the sales tax revenue is derived from. We have the traffic, we have the security issues, and we pass that revenue by us to the county that also, as you can see, has been taking exponentially increased rates of the real property tax levy in addition. And it's still not enough.
And what do you get for that? What do you get from the county?
You've got to start engaging these legislators and say, this is not acceptable. By virtue of the fact that you sit back, 2 rows into the insulation that you do, and you're never really held accountable. Can anybody here name their county legislator? They've got to be started held accountable, and I advocate that, yes, we do as townships have got to start banding together, reaching out to the other elected town board members and supervisors and saying, we're not going to take this anymore.
Do you have like a suburban council where you all get together? Should you be doing that? And
We
then-
try.
Oh.
We
so
try.
must have-
We actually work very well with Saratoga towns, Ballston, Clifton Park, Charlton. We have a great relationship
Oh, good.
with all of them. We try in Schenectady, so just a little different.
Yeah.
I think they're afraid of the river.
No, I mean all of the little towns that are affected by this. So you
We do, yes,
Yeah,
to
you
the
do
extent
occasionally
that they
meet.
want to engage.
can brainstorm
Yes.
and see if there's something you can do on behalf of all the people that voted for you.
Yeah, we definitely do reach out.
Okay, okay.
So my only question, and Jim brought up a much deeper, I think, problem with the county government, but if the sales tax revenue in the county, I assume that helps offset the county taxes that we pay. So in theory, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but how would we be taxed more by the county if now their tax revenue is being spread out more throughout the towns?
I mean, I think that's a fair concern, but I was just trying to find it quick. When you look at, what they're taking in sales tax and what they're taking in property tax, this is just Glenville. Now, they got other towns, they got the city, they don't take sales tax from the city, right? Because oh yeah, they do, yeah. So they've got a much, so the question is, do they have to tax you more? Or do they have to live within their means? And I think that's what we're trying to point out,
Government at that level as well.
is, when you run as a county, you run a county home, which is very important to have senior housing, there's no question on a nursing home. But you lose how much a year? 10 or 12 million dollars every year in operations, and we underwrite that? Maybe you need to look at how to run that without losing money. Those are the types
So
of.
it doesn't.
And to your point, I think that is a very, very fair question, and I'm sure that's the response you're going to get back if you do challenge your legislator. But I would challenge them back, look to the expense side of the ledger then. Let's start cutting costs of government.
First thing after that, what do you get from the county? So what services do you get? Daily, you do get your county roads plowed. What's next? We run a county nursing home. We run a jail, a library system, And social services, how can I forget social services? If you did that line out, you would see where a lot of that.
I encourage you all, it's right online, you can see it. Go to the county website and click on the county budget. It is a 300-page work of art.
Will we be able to get a hard copy of this?
Yeah, I'll put this on the website too, right? If I can
Along with everything
drive
else.
study. It will be on there.
Yeah, who does your website?
It's a company, we have to,
Why don't, I've asked this question before, years in the past. Why don't you use the high school kids to run the website? They know
yeah.
more about the issues than anybody else. And that would give them an interest in their town.
We understand that we're using, listen, a lot of what is going on in this town, and this is antiquated stuff here, and, the floor hasn't been done. These are little things we're trying to improve now.
Right.
Now that we've got a little more structural balance to the budget. We understand, as Lynn told me, our website is antiquated and probably not going to be supported much in the future. We're going to have to move to a new provider, so that's going to be a 2017 initiative.
Right.
So we will. But we also have a very big website. There's a lot of stuff there. It goes very deep. If you keep clicking.
Right, yeah, you get into codes and like that, that does get.
But all the departments between the.
I'd like to see more up-to-date stuff on there, just like tonight when you talked about Oktoberfest. There's no place that we know anything about what's going on in this town.
Right.
I mean, can't we do something about that?
Well, if you want to Facebook with me, I Facebook every day. Friend me. And you have Facebook?
I do, yes.
Because I put all that on my
I don't
Facebook.
like it. I have it, I
Well,
don't use it, I don't like
We
it.
do.
I'd like to just see.
We have news and announcements as well. If you sign up for news and announcements on the website, you get all the stuff that's published. And a lot of that stuff is put out through news and announcements. So
Okay.
that'll get put into your email.
Okay, yeah.
Anything else? Ann, did you have anything? No. All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming. We're going to go back to the board meeting, so if you want to stay, you're free to, but if not,
Thank you.
enjoy your evening.